Hey guys, now this is going to be a bit, excuse it, you can hear kids fighting in the background. It's what kids do, that's their programming. Of course, last week I did a video. It was basic. It was how to poach an egg. I thought I might get a bit of stick for doing that because I've only just figured out how to poach an egg myself. But I didn't. I got some good feedback, and I thought, well, I know that there are students subscribed to me who are just on the, verge of learning how to cook and that sort of thing. Okay, I know of one. I know there is a student at least. To me, knowing how to make pastry is just, it's one of these basic things you have to know because the leftovers. For example, the reason I was actually making pastry is because we had a casserole for dinner last night and we've got some left over, so I'm going to make it into pasties and, I don't know, have some veggies or baked beans or something on the side for dinner tonight. So it is a great way to repurpose dinners, even stuff that you don't intend on eating right there, right now. You can make a pie and then put it in the freezer. So, it's just, pastry is just such a handy thing to know how to do. Now I'll show you how to make two different types of pastry. One is short pastry, which is the stuff you use for savoury pies, quiches, pasties like I'm going to do, all that sort of thing. And I will also show you how to make sweet short crust pastry, which of course is what you do for the likes of apple pie or, sweet dishes. They're playing nicely, honest. This is really, really easy. First thing you'll need is 2 cups of standard plain flour. You don't have to bother sifting it. I don't know, maybe you meant to, but I don't. Give it a slack. Now I found that this amount, it'll make sort of between 300 and 400 grams. This is always the perfect amount for some reason, for whatever it is that I'm doing. So this always ends up the perfect amount. I don't know if that's magic or what, but it just does. Then we'll just want about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Run out of this. Just so you know, you can actually buy bags and take the lids off and refill these. Don't go buying a new one of these every time, it's cheaper to refill them. And I'm sure this pastry would be delicious if you used proper butter, but I don't. I use the good old cheap table spread. Normally I use Value brand. I've got Sunrise at the moment just because of where we were at the time of purchase. Good old fashioned scales. So we want about 125 grams of butter. I find it easiest if I just put it in there in lumps. It's also quite neat to, if you've got some leftovers that you think would be good in a pie, make some little mini pies. Just use like a muffin tray and stick them in the freezer and use them for kids' lunch boxes. Now, what you want to do is you want to cut that in. Now when something says cut it in, what it means is you get your fingers and you squeeze, 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 squeeze. So, you want clean hands. And just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Oops, make a bit of a mess. And just keep sort of squeezing it and like rubbing it together. And eventually it will start to look like breadcrumbs. You can see that there are a few little lumps left. That is actually looking very much like breadcrumbs. Now, what I'm going to do is, a 1/4 cup measure here, and I'm just going to put about 1/4 cup of water into there. We might need a bit more. Again, just use your hands and just start bringing it together until it forms. It should start to form a stiff dough, so just give it a good mix and keep squeezing it. I'll put a little bit more water in there. About another 1/8 cup. Just like that, that is basically your pastry. You want to do whatever you want with it really, within reason, as long as it's legal, I won't judge. Roll it out, roll into strips, use it as a fancy lattice on a pie or whatever. As I say, I'm going to roll this out and use it as a pasty. Now when you are cooking this, it'll vary. The cooking time will vary a lot depending on how thick you make the pastry. That will require more cooking time. Generally, a lot of pies sort of say cook for about 20 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius. You know, if you're rolling it out fairly thin, I mean, that'll do it. It's not necessary to put a wash or anything on top, but it does make it look nicer, and it's a good indication that the pastry is cooked, you know, rather than having to sort of tap on it and guess as to whether it's cooked or not. If you just put a bit of an egg wash, or even just brush a little bit of milk on top, that'll just make it just slightly nice and golden on top, and it'll look fancy. So now I'll put that to one side. I'm going to use that shortly to make my pasties, but I will also show you how to make sweet short crust pastry, because that is a bit different, obviously. This will make about 200 grams. You want 1 cup of, again, the good old standard plain flour. I just use Pam's flour. Good old butter or butter substitute again. This time you want about 75 grams. And do a little cutting it in trick again. Just use your fingers to pinch and rub until it starts looking like breadcrumbs. Now I should add as well that when you're cutting in the butter, make sure it's cold, make sure it is straight from the fridge, because if you use stuff that's room temperature, like this is actually happening to me, but it's not a major. You might see it's not so much going breadcrumby, it's kind of going slightly clumpy. It's going more not like loose breadcrumbs, because I left it out a little bit when I was doing the other stuff, and it hadn't quite chilled right back down again. So yeah, that's just what will happen. It'll start going a little bit clumpy. Not the end of the world. So this stuff, which of course resembles breadcrumbs perfectly, because I did not leave my butter out on the bench at all. Of course we want this to be sweet, so we add 1/4 cup of sugar. Right, 1/4 cup. Use the good old pan stuff. You're going to help. We're making plain pastry and sweet pastry. Just want to gently stir in that sugar, or get a helper to do it. Now we want to add 1 egg yolk.
I will crack an egg yolk in.
Well, we just need the yolk, not the white. So, gotta separate it. You could just do it between your fingers. See, now that's how you know it's a fresh egg. The white stays like a big globule. There we go, yolk. You're going to tip that in. And just want a little bit of water, about 1 tablespoon maybe. Right, let's do this. You just want to mix that till it gets to be a dough. I find it easiest to do it with my fingers. So then you can kind of squeeze it all together. I might have actually put a little bit much water in this. It's a little bit. Although actually it could have also been due to my slightly room temperature butter as well. So I'm actually going to add a little bit of extra flour to this because it's very sticky. Maybe like that. Just so it's not sticky. She was so clever. There we go. That's betterer. Betterer is a word. There we go. So we got a lovely ball of sweet pastry just to use as you see fit. So yeah, again, just, you know, roll it out, whatever. Before you taste the dough. I'm just going to wrap that up, stick it in the freezer, and when we go foraging for apples, I'm going to make an apple pie. In the meantime, I use the short dough that I used. I won't get these mixed up. And yeah, I'll make some pasties and I'll show you how they come out.